Welcome to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we explore the ins and outs of the seven figure journey. I'm one of your co hosts, David Gilliland from Elite Entrepreneurs. I am delighted to be here with Chris Aydam from Midnight Venture Capital, or sorry, Midnight Venture Partners.
Midnight Venture
Chris,
Partners.
welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, David. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're just delighted to have you on. You're calling in from Austin, Texas, and you've got a really cool venture fund put together and a team behind it that makes massive impact on the companies that choose to be part of your portfolio. I love the direct to consumer brand focus around that, the food and beverage space. Tell us just a little bit. How'd you get started, or what's the wow behind your business?
Absolutely. Well, David, at Midnight Venture Partners, we're an early stage VC fund. We're focused on the consumer space, but really our edge is in CPG, and that's food and beverage in omni-channel. That's retail and e-commerce. And we've built a team that can really help these emerging founders and these emerging brands in each aspect of their business, whether it's getting into retailers, increasing sales velocity while you're there, launching on e-commerce, growing your brand, increasing your retention, your LTV over CAC, all different aspects. Our team is really fantastic and has a great span of different experience across verticals in CPG and the consumer space at large.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that you bring your expertise to bear and you insert your team to help them really succeed. That's what we call smart money instead of just
We
money.
we like to think so. We may be biased, but each team member is really passionate about what they do and has a great track record.
Well, it sounds like you've got quite the winning team together for it. So, uh, yeah, not easy. It wasn't like, okay, let's start it. You had to find the right players. You had to work your way. You had to figure out the value proposition and how you would execute against that and who, right? And very, very cool, very cool. You probably had some bumps and some bruises along the way, some cool lessons learned. What are some things that you now have a portfolio going? You've got the fund, the raise was done. You're building them, you're getting them ready for their own growth and exits. What are things that you're seeing that are essential for businesses as they grow and try to be a serious contender in the marketplace?
Absolutely. Well, for us right now, it's burn rate. Can you grow with capital efficiency? And can you grow enough? Can you grow enough where you're actually, you're not growing 2-3% year over year, but you're also not burning hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. So for us, it's all about burn rate. Can you grow with capital efficiency?
Tell me more about that. How are you? What do you do to just measure that, to watch it? And if you found a sweet spot where, like, okay, this is the place, you can burn at this rate if you see this kind of growth, and you kind of have to find the balance. What are you looking at, and how do you track that?
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a really tough question, and it's a little bit of a moving goalpost per company and sales channel. But as far as D2C goes, it's all about retention. That's the key component because you can put all this dollars into marketing, right, to get a customer to buy your product, and that's fantastic. But if that customer doesn't buy the product again and again and maybe again, then those initial dollars are kind of meaningless. So customer acquisition is really important. The cost it takes to acquire an initial customer, but the real metric and key component to any business, particularly in e-commerce, really is that retention rate. How many times is your customer going to buy the product? Because that really unlocks the capital efficiency aspect that we talked about earlier and minimizes burn.
Yeah, I love that. It always comes back to the basics. Do I have a product market fit such that my customers love what I have and want to keep coming back for it? Because
Absolutely.
I can convince them all I want. I can have sponsorships from the biggest influencers out there, and if my product doesn't deliver what the buyer really wants, I'm just going to burn out all my marketing and sales dollars.
Totally. And are you buying product market fit? Right. So that's something that you need to look in the mirror and say, hey, you could think you have product market fit, but really you've been paying $5, right, to make three, and that's not really product market fit, I would say.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. Great insight on there. Any other insights you would share that you've learned maybe in growing your own business and team? They're like, I didn't know this before, but this made a big difference for us as we transitioned, shifted, and started to really grow ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. As a VC, you kind of have two games that you're playing. One is you're fundraising for your own fund, and then two, you're finding the best investments that you can, right? That fit your thesis. So on the investment side, we really learned that it's all about the people, right? I think that when you're evaluating an investment opportunity, product market fit is important, competitive landscape, market size, all that's great. But at the end of the day, it's execution that is going to land an investment, right? And so the team is so important. And so really kind of focusing on who it is that you're built, you could be a co-founder of a business and you can, drive a lot of the value because you're kind of the soul of the business, but the team that you put around you is so so important.
How do you measure that? How do you measure that? And people you're looking at investing in? Because I think for those of us, even those who aren't looking for investment, the reality is uh, we've got to make sure we've surrounded ourselves with the right people if we're going to create and deliver long-term value, right? Continue to grow, have something that's of value. It's not just a job; it's a real business. So how do you check and see that the right team is there?
Absolutely. Well, it's kind of twofold. Unfortunately, from an investment perspective, a lot of the times we basically look at investments and teams in two buckets. The first bucket is a second time founder who has had success, whether it's in the space or an adjacent space. And so someone who's done before, who has already had a team and been through the trials and errors of working with different teams, usually they bring some of their key hires from their last business along with them. So it's a team that's already proven from an investment perspective is that we really like to look at. The second bucket is a first time founder who may not have a track record of success, but has a lot of drive and ambition, and then has coachability. Right? We don't want to invest in someone who thinks they know everything, whether they've had success or not, but particularly if they haven't had the track record to back it up. We look for coachability.
Cool. I love that. I think it reminds me of like Lencioni's. I think this was his hungry and humble. Right. So a lot of drive and teachability. Right. And so, oh, great insights. I appreciate that, Chris. Let me transition now. You've shared some great nuggets for us. Now that we're at this stage, you're at this stage of growth, you're doing this work with so many great companies. What are some of the challenges you're facing as you seek to help them to grow, as you or for yourself as you're growing?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. And I think the challenge that we see with some of our investments in companies, and I see this across, all types of different entrepreneurial journeys, is the question of should I pivot my strategy or should I double down on my strategy and keep going because you might not be getting the certain traction results that you want, and you may not be um, it's kind of wondering if you should change your strategy or double down and have conviction on what you're doing. And I think that I've struggled with that myself, and I know that other founders have struggled with that immensely at times. And so I'm kind of curious what your take is on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Can I ask just a little bit about the teams? I've seen. So I want to take this two ways. First, I've seen some predictable plateaus that hit companies when they hit certain sizes. And I want to make sure we're not pivoting from our product or our market just because we're plateauing with our team. So let's check in on that. And then if that's all good, then we'll move to the next piece. Is that fair? And that second piece will be all around strategy shift kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Um, when they're getting stuck, are they in the size of, I'm gonna throw some sizes out, between 10 and 15-ish people, or between 25 and 35 people by chance?
Yeah, I would say it's sub 15.
Okay, sub
You know,
15.
I would describe it as hitting a certain kind of revenue plateau, as well as, you know, in an e-commerce example where you're still kind of buying that product market fit. To an example, maybe you're not getting the retention that we
Okay,
talked about that you want, and you're slowly bleeding cash, and you're not quite sure what to do because you have a certain amount of runway, and you need to make a decision whether it's, do we shift the product or do we change our strategy?
great. I'm gonna first touch this team size one, because usually one of the plateaus, there's a plateau that hits us right around 300, 500,000 revenue. People hit a plateau there. People hit a plateau between 1 and 2 million also fairly regularly across almost every industry, which is unnerving. Like, what's going on here, right? Like, I see it
Yes,
over and over again.
unnerving
And
is a great way to describe it.
yeah, I'm going to hit a team size for that group and share something that commonly happens. This isn't for an established team. So one of your established teams who's already proven, they've already taken a company to from 0 to 10 million plus, and they're an intact team doing a new one. This isn't applying to them usually. They've already figured some of this out. I'm talking about to those new founders, or to a founder who they were successful in getting something off the ground, but they sold it a million. So they haven't taken it to 10. Okay. So they actually haven't done a certain shift that needs to happen. So what happens when we get to this phase, if it's not product issue, but instead it's the team, is that as there's more team members, they become less efficient in the way they're doing their work, and they start sort of cutting things up a little bit. Like the owner used to touch, or the founder used to touch everything and could orchestrate everything, right? And they were passionate. They were putting in crazy long hours of doing all this. Well, now they're kind of maxed out. They become a bottleneck of decisions, but the rest of the team hasn't been empowered to make good decisions. They see they're not trusted. They put
Right,
forth an idea, and the owner always has a better idea, always, right? And so they always feel like, oh, I just have to wait. I have to wait
totally.
because she or he is going to change it on me anyway. That's really common at that size. And so, uh, first things to do at that pace, if you want to see and understand, is find out from the team how well they understand the vision. Do they get the impact we're trying to have for the business? And I don't mean just financial. I mean, like the big impact, the big why. Give me the big vision. Do they get the big vision where this could go? And do they understand some of the core ways we prioritize things in this business? How does this founder, or two founders, what do they value? Because the decisions they make fall in line with those values. So, does the team understand the direction and the values? Then, next, do they understand the big goal we're all after and how their role fits it? Not just their day to day, I do X, Y, and Z. Yes, that, but also from their role, what could they do to influence the direction of the business? Because we have to change from the owner or the founder carrying everyone on their back and moving forward with brute force and will, to where the owner has to keep up with the team that are all running the same direction in unison, and they're just trying to keep up. That's a shift that happens right around 10 employees. If you have two founders, it'll be closer to 15 if those founders are aligned, because they can handle that span of control. But that's a
Understood. Yes.
typical place. So that's one thing to check. Let's pretend we got that. Let's pretend this team is fully aligned. Because if they're not, they'll ruin even great products.
Get each other's way.
They will not
You know,
on
it comes
purpose.
back to the team. It's so important.
That's right. The trust is lower, the speed is slower. What that means is revenues are dragged down. They're not taking time as a team to collaboratively think. They have no time and space to set aside and say,
Right.
what do we need to do to get the customer to buy their fifth round of this product? I don't care about purchase two, yes, But what does it take to get them to the fifth one, right? To where they're buying and telling their friends to buy, to where the marketing's free. What does it take? Right. And so the team has to be wrestling with this, the whole team, no longer the owner and the VC firm or whoever they're talking to, but the whole team wrestling with this, building plans, working on it, cranking forward. If they're doing that, it's not a team issue. Okay. Then we're looking at some product issues and some shifts on that. And I think one of the most valuable thing is, first of all, I promise I don't have the answer for a single one of your businesses. That's entrepreneurship, right?
Right.
We are
That's the
constantly
journey.
we are reading the market. It is a journey, but I do have a process we like to use in that, if they're a moderately fast growing business, so let's say a 30% to 100% growth a year, so not crazy fast, but moderately fast, right? At that stage, if they're at that stage, then they probably need to meet every 3 months as a team, at least the leadership team, and maybe a few key others. They come together and they say, hey, let's get out of the trenches and let's all step back and look at the market forces together. Okay, because that's when we know we're supposed to pivot. There's a signal out there that we may not have put our thumbs and fingers on and really understood perfectly well. But if the team is coming together and they're looking at various trends and things happening in the market and looking really honestly, critically at their own strengths and weaknesses and how those play to the trends, then they're in a place to begin to say, yeah, I know this was a cool product, but we're like crazy good at wrapping oatmeal around just about anything, or whatever.
Sure.
Like
Right.
we're just really good at that. And have you seen what people are saying about that in this other space? So are we seeing the other spaces and what's moving? So we could take and pivot from granola bars over here to, I don't know what. I'm not a food beverage guy, but let's say
Whatever
it's
product it may be.
yeah, it's the latest protein drink that's oats based or something, right?
Hmm.
Like it's just going berserk. Well, we have this like specialty around oats. We've got the guru on oat things.
Or
So
more narrowly, we want to be the best tasting
yeah,
protein
that's
drink
right.
out there, and I
That's
think that
right. So
alone has power.
so understanding those and saying, so what's the shifts in the market? The market's done with will be healthy at any cost. Let me eat garbage, meaning let me go and graze on the neighbor's front lawn and pretend it tastes good and look
Hmm.
healthy in the mirror. We actually want to enjoy life too. And so here's a shift, right? So there's shifts that are happening. And if the team comes together and even just as simple as a SWOT analysis, what are our true strengths? And let's really put them out there. And I want technical strengths listed. I want organization strengths listed. I want partnerships listed. I want it all, right? If we're really good about shifting and getting unified fast to move, I want that there. I want to know my strengths. And then what are we really poor at? Especially against the mission we've set out. Mission meaning a definable goal all of us can measure we're going to. It has to be done in these 3 years. Boom, right? To go after that big growth, what are our weaknesses that could hold us back? And this is all in the context of what's out there. The next part of SWOT are these opportunities and threats. You don't have to do this ordinally. Let it
Sure.
circle, right? Let's go. Let's look at this. Then we start seeing opportunities out there. People are starting to care about taste again. They're caring a lot about taste, but they need it to be healthy. How do we do this? How do we find the food scientist who's the best at honey and how it comes together with things, especially in large manufacturing? How do we find that? And how do we manage the quality and consistency of that when honey changes by location? Like, how do I figure that out? Because the honey, everyone says is good for you. And
Right. Right.
let's
That's a
get
key
back to
component of the product or business. To really, you distilled it down to a really important factor.
that's right. You're going to have some things. So they're going to look at opportunities and threats that are out there. Competition in the market, yes, absolutely. We're going to look at substitutes. We're going to look at new entrants. We're going to look at buying strength of our people we sell to, or the wholesale group. We're going to look at the sellers' strength, our vendors and what they're bringing to us. How do we position ourselves in a way that doesn't squeeze our margins away? Sure, we'll look at some of that Porter Five Forces stuff, but more so, I want to understand other trends. Tell me about some of the social trends. Tell me about some of the demographic shifts that are going on out there. Tell me about buying patterns that have changed that we haven't been looking at. Who are the new buyers? Where are they going? Has that shifted? We need to bring this stuff together. But if we're having time every single quarter, that teammates that before just worked in the trenches are now regularly thinking strategically with us, making them come out of that circle until I've got 10 minds thinking strategically instead of two. Now, every day when they're doing their work, they're actually doing pivots for us in how they work with the customers and take care of a customer call, or how they look at packaging. They're doing minor pivots all the time because they're thinking about the broader context. We
Yeah, I
have to,
like that a lot. You're empowering the team to kind of continually do these minor pivots, knowing the larger context and larger vision as a whole already, and so it kind of
it
adds
gets there.
value incrementally over time.
So we'll have that constant incremental if they're trained to think strategically. And then in those quarterlies, we're allowed to flip ourselves upside down in our head and totally pivot the business. But the team has come together to look at it. And we see what we need to do. We saw where our weaknesses were. We're going to have to hire that expert. That honey scientist is what we're going to call them.
Mhm.
Industrial honey
Mhm.
scientist that could come in and put that flavor in that I actually need in this product, but that still screams healthy or whatever. And maybe not, right? Maybe we're not in the healthy version. Maybe we're like, no, let's go, brazen. We're going to go another direction. It's more of a marketing and image thing. Great. Wherever we need to pivot to, pulling in that right talent, building those new processes so we can go to market and win, or new partnerships. It might be the solution isn't bring anything in other than a partnership that can take care of a piece that we can't. But the team has to decide. In order to win, this is the direction we need to go. Here's where we're weak. These are the strengths we'll need to build, and here's the strengths we'll need to develop to get there. With some of those key things, I think you'll find uh, I think you'll find the opportunity for the team to know when they need to pivot. And because this is entrepreneurship, we're going to get it wrong sometimes, and that's okay,
Yeah, that's part of the ride. That's
right?
part
That's
of the
just
ride.
part of the ride. But
I love that
everyone on
insight.
your team is trained. So
Yeah, I love that insight because at the end of the day, if your business is having issues and you're thinking about making a pivot, the solution isn't just going to come to you one day and say, "Oh, I have the solution that's going to change our business, and we're going to pivot and move towards the success and path that we want to go." That's really hard to do. It happens, the lightning strike, right? But really, what you've described is one, focusing on the team and putting together a framework to be doing these pivots, so to speak, in unison towards a goal. So it's not some large pivot at a certain point in time. It's a bunch of small pivots that's moving towards the right direction based off market dynamics, customers, products, and I think that has a lot of value.
and even just the data internally. Does everyone know that our margins have been decreasing on this product over time, and we see no reason why? And are
Mm-hmm.
they solving that problem together?
Right.
Sometimes we're pivoting away from that same person who's causing this issue. The pivot of the business is going to have that same person unless we pivot away from them, right? And so,
Sure. Sure.
is the data there? Are we seeing it? Are we using it? So, internal data, external data. Let's look at it together. Let's be real, and let's celebrate and see the possibilities. This isn't a blame session. This is a discovery one. Now we can start going, building, and growing. It's just creating time and space to be innovative, to be clear, to be aligned. And so hopefully that can be helpful as you work with your portfolio companies, is how do I teach them to co-create the future? And how do I teach them to be nimble enough to see and learn from what's outside and be responsive? Because business is about serving out there. It's not about running my job the way I want to run it. That's the problem with big businesses. People are running their jobs. They're not responding to the market the way they need to.
Yeah, I think a key point there that I really like is, people are running their jobs and they have a certain roles and their heads down trying to do the best that they can. but they're not creating that time and space, as you said, for innovation. I think that reminding the team that having that creating that time and space and being intentional about that can really be powerful and important. So I think that's a really good nugget to share with the team is create that time and space for the innovation.
And imagine if across your portfolio companies, every one of the teams is thinking that way, acting that way. Every one of the team members is like that. A lot of portfolio companies, you get say 10 companies in there, 20 companies in there. If they get 10% of those companies to have a great exit, they're pretty excited about the portfolio. Your numbers, you're aimed at 33 because of the expertise you're bringing in. Wow, 33%. That's huge on the return. Well, if all 10 are thinking this way and you just added one more company that succeeded and had an exit, what's the dollar value, Chris?
It could be very meaningful.
Yeah, just one more. Just one more by getting everyone thinking and acting like this in a way that they're innovating, they're thinking about, they're looking at the market, and they have time and space to do that, could have a very big impact for a very low cost of investment to get people there. So I'm glad we got to talk a little bit about that. I loved your insights to the group of if the product market fit isn't real, if the people aren't buying for the fourth and fifth and sixth time without you having to buy that purchase, but they're going and doing it on their own, that no amount of investment is going to save you, right? That's got to happen.
Exactly.
Change. That's just
And you got
that's
to
a
look in the mirror and see, is that applying to your business or not? Are you buying product market fit?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We can't do that. We have to see, do they love it? Does the market love it? That's a just great insight for us to all step back and look at. And hopefully, some of the things I shared were also valuable to you and to the listeners today. And we're getting to a wrap up point here. But Chris, what if someone's listening right now and they're saying, "I would love to have an investor like that behind me and working with me"? How would they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Well, go to midnightventurepartners.com and you can reach out there, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Chris Aydam.
Okay, so midnightventurepartner.com. I saw midnightvp.com. Does that work too?
Yes.
Okay, either one. Midnight Venture Partners or midnightvp.com. Look for Chris Aydam on LinkedIn. And great having you on the show. I certainly enjoyed the call today. That wraps up this round, this episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. And if you liked it as a listener, please like, share, get it out to other seven figure business owners so they can also benefit from the things we've talked about today. Keep growing, keep striving, keep pivoting and learning, and keep caring about your teams. Until next time.